Vincent growled out and shrugged his shoulders as he stretched. He'd reviewed his memories of the patrol, so he could get an ID on the Vernick known as Cassis when he saw the felon. This was going to have to be public and messy if he wanted to get the word out that anyone who killed him in the future better leave his gun right where they found it. For the past few months, the rumors about him had spread slowly, and he hadn't really addressed them, but the past few days made him realize something. He needed to use his condition to his advantage, if he was going to make his life any easier. Something evil was going on in the depths of the city. All that black blood had to be coming from somewhere, and it seemed to be making the felons ever bolder. Hell, that fucker Cassis had said killing the Shade would make him famous. It wasn't a good sign that felons thought they could get away with something like that. If the criminals didn't respect the law itself, then they'd need to fear those who brought the law to them, or more accurately, those who killed them in the name of the law. The lift opened and he stepped out into the gray market, the gateway to the part of the city he spent the most time in. After his display at the start of the patrol, he noticed everyone glance at him as he stepped down. People pulled away to open up a path for him, leading to the lifts across the way which he expected. But then, for the first time, some of the stall owners approached him. They had trinkets or bits of food in their hands as they reached out to him. "Shade, please accept some of my Hundel Cirrus fruit." He waved away the hand. "These pendants shall bring you good luck. A bottle of the finest blue slime!" He finally growled out as they impeded his way forward. "Look, if I want what you have, I'll make it clear and I'll pay you for it." The various Xenos quickly stepped back, as they could see the look on his face. Then he sighed for a moment. "I do appreciate the offers, but I can't accept gifts." Finally, the Xenos retreated to their stalls, and he was left to advance freely once more. As he approached the bank of lifts, he had to think about where to go, however. He had no idea what kind of person Cassis was, or where he might hang out. Should he start scouring the low-level dens, some of the brothels below the gray market, just bounce from Vernick bar to Vernick bar, hoping he got lucky? This could take him days. The thought was enough to start pissing him off again, that he'd been so sloppy with his magnum on his very first patrol. "You are the Shade?" A soft voice spoke up from his left, and he turned, arching a brow as he saw a female Vernick. The females weren't too far off from the males, spry and flexible. For a moment, as he looked over her curves, he wondered just how flexible they could be. He hadn't had much interaction with other species, but this one was pleasing to the eye, though he wasn't sure if her being attractive to him translated to being attractive to her species. Then he noticed some discoloration around her left eye. Vincent frowned and reached out, taking her face in his hand as he turned it, stepping closer so he could examine the bruise. Someone had slugged her pretty good a day or so ago. Finally, he let go of her face and nodded. "I'm the Shade." He put more emphasis on the word than she had. "You're looking for the one named Cassis?" He saw a flash of anger behind her eyes, and he had a good idea who'd hit her. "I am." "He's in a club 2 levels down, making the most of his sudden fame. I'd like to take you to him. He needs to be arrested." Vincent wasn't going to be arresting him, but he didn't say that. Instead, he nodded. "Lead the way." He motioned to a lift and let her step on first as she took them down to 32. On the lift, he noticed some writing on the ceiling. "The Phoenix will burn us all!" He frowned as he saw it, and glanced at the Vernick, but she didn't seem to notice it. He glanced up at it once more before the door opened, and stepped out into the lift with her. It was a little surprising to him that the felon would be so bold as to party in a club so close to level 30, but most of the felons he dealt with in the city weren't exactly smart. It was a fancy-looking club, similar to the one he'd busted up before Cassis had killed him, but this one was apparently on the level, or patrols would have shut it down by now. There was a line of people waiting to get in, but just like before, he walked past the bouncers without a second thought, and they didn't try to stop him. Inside the club, it was much like the other one. Loud music, flashing lights, dancing Xenos. This one was larger, however, and he saw multiple levels. Plus, there were sections where the music was significantly quieter, so people could talk. He glanced around, but she was tugging on his arm, pointing him to a table where he saw the back of a Vernick, with each arm around some brightly colored Xeno girls. They reminded him of Vegas showgirls, but instead of the feathery bits and shiny material being just a costume, it looked like they actually had bird-like tails and bright patches of scales. Their faces looked surprisingly human, really, but they had extended pointy ears. Elves? Bird elves? The female Vernek nodded once more. I'll walk around and distract him. Vincent was about to tell her not to bother, but she was already walking away. He could hear the laughter coming from Cassis and his new girlfriends. There were plenty of glasses on the table with brightly colored liquids, and he could see his magnum in the center of it all. It looked like luck was on his side today, since a potentially lengthy tracking process had been reduced to this. The female circled around and approached the table from the side Cassis was looking.
Hey, Karana! Look who stopped by. Girls, this is Karana, my dumbass sex. She thought I should stay home earlier. Now look what I got, Karana.
He let go of one of the girls to pick up the magnum and wave it in her face.
I killed the stupid shade. The boss already gave me a huge bonus, and I'm on my way to the top. Isn't that right, girls?
He looked either side as the bird elves giggled and nodded.
I think he has something to say about that,
Karana said as Vincent walked up behind Cassis. When the Vernek tried to turn and look, Vincent grabbed him by the shoulder and the back of the head before slamming the felon's face down into the table, pulled it back, slammed it down, and then once more for good measure. When he let go, Cassis collapsed on the ground unconscious as the bird elves squealed and scampered away. Vincent wasn't done, though, as he picked up his foot and stomped down on the Vernek's face. There was a slight crunch. Then he picked up his foot again, and Karana gasped, seeming to realize what his intentions were. She rushed up, trying to shove Vincent away.
Stop! You'll kill him!
But Vincent easily shoved her back and brought his foot down again. And again. And again. There was a circle of people around them now, as he finally brought his boot down one last time with a heavy crack, as blue blood and other materials were seeping out of the broken Vernek's skull. Karana sank to her knees next to the body, already crying.
Why? Why did you kill him?
It was either now or with the next available execution opening. I figured I'd save the city money.
What? Why would he be executed?
If there's direct visual evidence of a felon murdering a patrolman, they're simply executed at the next opportunity.
What? Who did he murder?
She looked up, eyes still filled with tears as she realized now the mistake in turning over her ex to Vincent. Me! Vincent blinked as he said that. Who the fuck do you think? You had my weapon! He was bragging to everyone about killing me. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? That I'd slap him around a bit and make him take you back instead of those... whatever girls? His fate was sealed when he shot me in the face.
But you don't count.
She said that as if everyone knew. As if it was a plain and simple fact. Vincent growled out, reaching down and pulling her up by her shoulders. I don't matter. I don't fucking matter? Why not? You think just because I come back, that makes it any different in the eyes of the law? I bleed. I suffer. I feel pain and every other horrible thing that's happened to me. I've been shot, stabbed, burnt, electrocuted, beat, kicked, crushed, blown up, and I've even fucking drowned. I die for this city over and over again. It isn't the same body that returns. It's just the same pissed-off soul in a new one. He shoved her away and growled, as the crowd quickly parted. He made his way up to the station where the DJ was controlling everything. It was some dark-shelled Xeno with strips of neon along his arms, legs, and chest that made Vincent think of some sort of techno-beetle. He turned the music off and picked up the mic as the Xenos in the club turned to look at him. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Shade, and I patrol the city, ending crime and criminals. He lifted up his badge. This badge means something. It means that no matter how many times I die, I'm still an officer of the law. I will return and complete my mission, whatever it is, no matter what happens to my body. This badge means If you kill me, you're dead. No one can get away with murdering an officer of the law in this city, even if they're killing the infamous Shade. He tucked the badge away, then pulled up his magnum. This is my weapon. It was a gift. See this white inlay? That's some of my bone from one of my first deaths. I wield my own dead remains on my weapon, and I want it back every time I die. He pointed at the body of Cassis that Karana was still crying over. That guy was the first to take it from me as a trophy. And I came back and stomped his brains out. If anyone ever dares take this from my body again, I'll make their death as slow and painful as possible. Then I'll make sure everyone they cared about has a patrol watching them for the rest of their lives. Any slip-up, and they're getting hauled off. Spread the fucking word. No matter how many times my body is destroyed, my soul will be back. The only chance any felon has of surviving is to immediately surrender. He scanned the crowd for a moment, all the various faces gazing up at him, before he nodded and handed the mic back to the Techno-Beetle, and walked back down to the crowd. While approaching Karana, he tapped into his comm. Handler, send a morgue unit to my current location. Single Vernek.
Did you already get your weapon back?
Did you ever doubt me?
We have the prisoner up here on the ship awaiting your arrival for interrogation.
Understood, Handler. Then he stopped behind Kirana as she clutched the remains of Cassis, still crying. Vincent sighed for a moment and reached down, squeezing her shoulders and pulling her up to her feet, turning her around to face him. Why are you crying over that piece of shit?
What? I loved him. How can you say that?
Vincent waved a hand at the club around them. The first thing he did after becoming famous for killing me was come to a club and hit on other girls. Or, if not the first thing, it was obviously pretty early on his list of celebratory shit. He punched you in the face, obviously. You were trying to stop him from going out. Karana sniffed and nodded at that. So this asshole hits his girlfriend for trying to keep him safe, dumps her immediately, and at the first hint of any kind of fame goes after other girls. Do you think that was love from his side? There was a pause as she started to rub away some of the tears before shaking her head. Had you two been an on-again, off-again thing? Knew each other from when you were little? She nodded. Just because someone's been in your life for a long time doesn't mean you're made to be together. Obviously, you wanted him to suffer a bit for what he did. Why else did you come get me, huh?
I thought you just...
She shrugged. Some part of you wanted him gone. You don't go finding a killer if you want to give someone a beating. He was a piece of shit anyway. You need to go find someone who'll treat you better. He thought it over for a moment, and took her arm, leading her over to one of the ATMs in the club. He punched in his information, and withdrew 1,000 credits. It wasn't like he ever bought anything with his pay anyway. Turning, he pressed the bills into her hand, as she blinked and looked up at him with confusion. Take a few days off from work, or quit, or whatever. Move somewhere else, figure out what you want to do with your life and do it. He turned then, leaving her behind in the club as he walked out, nodding to the Yervesh morgue team who was just entering. He tapped his comms once more. Handler, I'm done here. Got a ride for me?
Just half a block over. There's an old landing pad.
Vincent nodded and walked down the block, seeing the patrol craft hovering just above the landing pad. There were a number of displaced bums who'd set up some sort of box town on the pad, obviously not thinking anyone ever needed it at this level. Vincent walked past the Xenos. Blocking city landing pads with unauthorized structures is a serious infraction. Once we're gone, you better take your things and scram. Got it? He glanced around and saw a number of nods, before he climbed up on the craft, gripping the crash netting as the pilot took them up. As soon as the craft was free, he could see the homeless Xenos quickly charge in, to take their things out of the crushed boxes and get out of the area. The habs and levels began to fall away as the craft lifted up, heading towards the ship. Vincent was only paying half attention, as he thought over the few things he'd learned. What was with the graffiti lately? All he'd ever seen was stupid clan tags and gang signs to mark territory. Sometimes it was youths being dumb, or funny, depending on your perspective. The strange, somewhat prophetic writings he had seen were entirely new. Someone had also paid Cassius a big bonus for killing him. Did the felons not understand how he worked then? That killing him just slowed him down? It also implied organized crime, and throughout his patrols he hadn't seen much of an indicator of that. Sure, there were gangs, but they seemed to operate on a small and direct basis in their area, which was easy to shut down once he turned his attention to them. Then again, the entire supply of black blood had to be coming from somewhere. Soon the craft was leveling out, and he looked out over the top of the city, up above the clouds. The moon was looking down on them, the only thing he could clearly see in the sky, since all of the lights drowned out the stars. He looked up at the white circle for a moment. Where the fuck was he? Where was Earth? He didn't think about it too much anymore, but after the strange last couple of days, he was feeling a little homesick again, which reminded him of the hand, and the dead woman from the memory. He'd need to somehow get permission to search around the base of the city, but he didn't really want to say why. He'd figure something out. The craft came down on the pad near the worm ship, and he hopped off, walking across the landing pad and into the airlock of the ship. Cavazor was waiting for him.
We've got the prisoner in a room down this hall. There is recording equipment inside, but he does not know this. He is very well versed in the legal system, and knows we won't cause him undue harm, which seems to be the only way to get any information out of him.
If I use undue harm, isn't that illegal?
I've never told you this, Creature 88, but you're not considered a person by the AI, and as such, patrol resources aren't capable of being charged with breaking the law.
Vincent snorted at that and shook his head for a moment. All right, let me go sync my memories in case this goes wrong.
You didn't mention how this interrogation method works.
You have to see it to understand it, he said simply, walking past Cavazor and down the halls of the ship before stepping into the bay with all of his clones and the original in the tanks. There was a chair in here with his connections, and he quickly picked up the cable and let it sink into the back of his neck, before closing his eyes and feeling the last 2 hours or so of memories quickly repeat in his head. Such a small sink didn't take much time at all, and he was soon up, walking back through the ship to the interrogation room. He stopped through the door and saw the Vernek cuffed to a metal chair on the other side of a simple metal table. Seeing Vincent step through the door, he had a flash of fear cross his face, before he tried to look more confident.
What do you want, Shade? You can't touch me.
Vincent just walked across the room and slapped the Vernek across the face, making him tilt in the chair for a moment. The Xeno blinked and opened and closed his mouth for a moment as Vincent pulled out his magnum. He opened the cylinder, noting that the casings he'd used were still in there, but Cassius hadn't stolen any fresh ammo off his body, so Vincent emptied the cylinder of spent rounds, and then pulled a fresh one from his pocket, setting it on the table. This is the ammunition my weapon uses. A small chemical charge encased in that metal portion explodes and propels that top bit, called a bullet, at speeds of a few thousand meters per second out of the barrel. You've seen what it did to your bouncers. This cylinder holds 6 rounds. Vincent picked up the bullet and loaded it into the gun before he snapped it shut, and then gave the cylinder a spin, letting the Xeno hear all the clicks before it finally stopped. There's now a 1 in 6 chance that the round is ready to fire. He pulled back on the hammer with his thumb, hearing it click, and then set the barrel against the side of his skull. He pulled the trigger and heard the click even louder since it was pressed against his head. The Xeno jerked a bit as he saw that. There's now a 1 in 5 chance the round is ready to fire. He set the gun back down on the table. The Xeno looked from the weapon up to Vincent.
You can't do this. This is illegal.
I'm not a person. I'm a shade. I enforce the law, but it doesn't actually apply to me. It's a very strange setup. He picked up the gun then, and walked around the table, clicking back the hammer. He pressed the barrel against the Vernek's forehead, who gulped. If I pull the trigger now, there's a 1 in 5 chance you die. But then I wouldn't get any information out of you, would I? He shook his head. Then he pressed the gun down against the Vernek's knee. So instead, if I pull the trigger now, there's a 1 in 5 chance you lose this leg below the knee.
This is insane!
Vincent pulled the trigger, and with the loud click, the Vernek cried out and jerked in the chair. But everything was still intact. There is now a 1 in 4 chance the bullet will be fired. 1 in 4 isn't bad. It's all just a matter of probability, right? If there were 4 copies of you, only one of you would lose his leg. The Xeno was staring intently at the weapon now, as Vincent pulled back the hammer yet again. Then he moved the barrel up, pressing it between the Xeno's thighs. Or 1 out of 4 you would get shot in the dick.
Please?
No, you're right. Vincent pulled back then, placing the barrel to his head again. Sorry. In my culture, this is a game of chance. It's bad form not to take my turn. He pulled the trigger and heard the loud click. Well, seemed like luck was on his side. He wouldn't die just yet. Then he moved the gun back down to the Vernek's crotch. 1 in 3.
I'll tell you whatever you want. Don't pull the trigger. Don't. My suppliers. Everyone who's worked for me.
The Xeno was jerking against the chair as he cried.
Whatever you want to know about the black one.
Vincent paused. Black one?
Yes, the black one. There were rumors of another shade, but he has nothing to do with patrol apparently. There's a huge reward for his capture. Some part of him was being transported a few days ago, and when you stopped the shipment, the bosses were angry. They thought if they stirred up trouble, you'd come down, and they could kill you. But you just keep coming back.
Why do they want to capture him? Because they think it'll mean something to me?
It has to do with the black blood.
What does it have to do with that?
I don't know.
Vincent pulled up the magnum, but the Xeno gasped and tugged harder against the chair.
I don't know. I swear on whatever you want me to swear that I don't know. I'm just a dealer. They gave us the product and we sell it and make credits. We cock up some of the profits, but less than you'd think. People are being paid to cause as much trouble as possible.
Vincent frowned. Who's paying?
I just know they're messengers. I'll give you whatever I can, but I don't know who's really in charge. They're trying to unite the Undercity species, though. They're offering bounties to anyone who kills patrols. Or they're offering them since few are taking it. I heard they're going to increase the rewards.
Vincent thought over what he was being told. Does the Phoenix mean anything to you? The Vernek blinked at that and thought a moment before shaking his head, then stopped.
Wait, I remember hearing some junkie mutter about it once. Something about the fire washing away the shadows.
Vincent turned his back to the Vernek to let him see the Phoenix on the back of his jacket. This mean anything to you?
I don't know. Some kind of bird.
So you don't know what a Phoenix is?
Wait, that's a Phoenix? I thought it was some sort of fire monster. You're the Phoenix? But how can you be fire if you're a shade?
Vincent shook his head. Never mind. It's probably nonsense junkie talk. He rubbed his chin and thought. It didn't make sense. If the Xenos didn't have a legend of the Phoenix, why would junkies start talking about it all of a sudden? Someone was manipulating the lower city, and it could get real bad real fast.
Look, what do you want to know? I swear I'll tell you everything.
Vincent waved a hand dismissively. I'm going to send some Yerveshian here to ask you about more things. You'll tell them whatever they want to know, or they'll leave, and I'll come back. And there will still be a 1 in 3 chance. He hefted the magnum for a moment.
I'll tell them whatever they want, I swear!
Vincent nodded and stepped out of the room. Cavazor was waiting.
That was the most insane interrogation technique I've ever seen.
Oh, Back home, you often use fake bullets when the criminal thinks it's real.
Oh, that was a dud round?
Nah, it was real. We both just got lucky.
Creature 88. He could have died if you shot him in such a sensitive area. Have your counselor make you a fake round for future use.
Oh, is that all you're concerned about? You'll probably like how effective it was either way. Diervesh glanced away from him for a moment, which told Vincent all he needed to know. Look, handler, I'm a resource, right? Not a person. Then let your resource do his job. Did you hear about the bounty on patrols?
Yes, this is very serious. I'll alert the hierarchy that we need to start thinking about bringing in military equipment for our patrols. Now then, there's a serious assault on what might be a black blood manufacturing plant. We had an anonymous tip which has turned up a very solid lead. I was going to let you sit this one out, but after what the felon stated, I want you down there to take point. If they're going after patrols, it's better to send you in first before we lose someone.
Vincent sighed and shook his head. He knew it didn't even occur to Cavazor that Vincent himself didn't particularly like dying. Then again, he had no family or loved ones, and he came back to life. No rest for the wicked. Fine, but you need to ask this guy about everything he knows. And Cavazor, did you know there was possibly another of my species here?
And that raid on the black blood dealer a few days ago, where you were stabbed through the chest. We found a dark-skinned hand that looked like one of yours. My superiors instructed me to keep quiet about it.
So they really hadn't checked his memories from that day. They had no idea he'd found the hand and taken the black box out of it. Good. Why did they want me in the dark?
That is literally all we know about the possibility of another of your kind on this planet. They feared if we told you, you'd think we were holding out on you.
We're on the same team, Cavazor. We have to learn to trust one another if this is going to get as bad as I think it is. I believe you. Now go find out what the felon knows while I die for the city again. He patted Cavazor on the shoulder and walked past, heading to the armory so he could get suited up for the coming assault. There was something rotten in the core of the city. It involved humans, black blood, and some sort of organized syndicate that seemed more interested in causing trouble than making money. None of it bode well, but if they really did want a phoenix to swoop in and burn away the shadows with fire, then they'd pick the right shade for the job.